thank you so much for being here, Jennifer.
Yes,
We've
thank
got
you.
Jennifer Ramos here from Actionstep, and you're in the vendor hot seat. Um, so why don't you take just a minute to tell us what Actionstep is, and then I will ask you some tough questions.
Wonderful. So Actionstep is natively cloud-based practice management. We like to say kind of a legal operations platform. It's practice management as everybody imagines it, right? You can manage your contacts and your matters and your documents and your tasks and your emails and your time entry, get your bills out, get paid, manage trust, all of that. It's start to finish. It's really can be one platform that can handle just about everything you need to run a legal operation. But what we really like to focus on is that Action Step can sort of be the hub of your tech ecosystem because of our open API and our acceptance of and encouragement of integrations. We really find that it's kind of short-sighted to think that a law firm could maybe just use one program to run
Mhm.
everything. I mean, we would love to be that, but in reality, we know legal professionals are using the Microsoft Office suite. They're leaning into that tech stack. They're using other systems to get their job done, whether those be forms sets or expense recovery systems, whatever it might be, document management systems, HubSpot, tools for marketing. And we want to be able to talk to all of those programs so that you have one umbrella under which everything is there, and it's maybe not a one-stop shop, but it's almost a one-stop shop
Mhm.
because everything connects and talks to Action Step. So we just become that central hub of all of
Okay.
the technology that a firm is using.
That sounds great. Very cool. Very, very cool. Well, so I'm going to ask you some questions, and they're going to be questions that we often get to after we've had a few conversations. They're not
Okay.
maybe going to be the questions that people would find exploring your website, or maybe in the
Sure.
very first like superficial kind of like demo or something that they can access. And that's what we kind of want this vendor hot seat to be about.
Mhm.
So what does like a realistic action step implementation timeline look like? Kind of for maybe a 25-person firm and then maybe like a 75. How long does that take? And let's assume that they've got messy data that they need to
Mhm.
clean up. Not that anybody has any messy data,
Right.
and that they've got like limited internal like admin bandwidth. What I always find is that I don't know that firms understand really how much time and energy it takes to
Right.
actually make this kind of change. So, where about how long does it take, and where do you see implementations typically stalling?
Well, I see implementation stalling at conversion because conversions are the thing that always take projects off the rails, no matter how organized or you are, and quite frankly, even if your data is really clean. Um, Database, it's like this database spoke in this language and had this table structure and organization, and ActionStep has a different one. So it's hard sometimes to just reconcile those things in a way that the customer or the client will be happy with at the end. And so they stall because there's typically a test conversion, we hope. And to your point about limited internal admin, only the firm, only the users can tell us if the data is right or not. We can do counts and we can say, oh, you had 586 of this type and now you have 586, but we can't look at that matter or that contact and recognize that something is off, right? Only the users who are familiar with the data. That UAT, that user acceptance testing, that data integrity check, that takes time, and you have to commit the time as a firm. If you can't commit the time, I mean, I
Yeah.
say don't do it, right? But
Mhm.
obviously that's not what happens.
Right.
Um, for a 25 to 75 user firm, I know people hate this answer, but it really depends, right?
Mhm.
So at Action Step, we don't tend to do implementations in-house. We have a really strong channel of partners, and we lean on those partners. We send closed business to those partners. So we are hoping that our consultants, our certified partners, are communicating with firms about the timeline. A lot of the timeline isn't about how hard it is or how long it takes. It's about the mutual availability for the time to be spent, right? So let's just assume that the firm has the time and the consultant has the time. I think it's reasonable for a firm of 25 for sure to be up and running in 60 to 90 days. A
Mhm.
larger firm, you're definitely going to be closer to that 90-day mark and maybe more depending on the conversion, right?
Mhm.
Because oftentimes we're not converting one program to one program. We're talking about, okay, I had a practice management system and a document management system and a financial system, and now I'm converting all three into one.
Hmm.
And that is hard, and that takes time to figure out to get it right. So we hope that our consultants are setting expectations with the firms that they're working with. When I was a consultant a
Hmm.
while ago, when we would put together a proposal and it had a number of hours on it, let's just say it was 100 consulting hours, I would say to firms, and you should expect to spend 50 hours
Yeah.
because we can't read your mind. And what I think is important to happen is that you're leaving a system for a couple of reasons. Either you don't like it, or it's being sunset, or you're ready to have a cloud, a philosophy. And so this is the time to think about the way you did things and the processes, and
Hmm.
and maybe reevaluate. So
Hmm.
we want our partners doing a process and workflow analysis and understanding where the gaps were in the programs they were using and how can we accommodate that or make it more efficient in action step. And that takes time speaking with the people who do the work. So it's really important that firms understand that this is not just a financial investment. This
Hmm.
is an investment of time.
Yeah.
Some of your most valuable people, right? You've got attorneys billing 200,
Right.
$400 an hour, and I need them for 2 hours today for something
Right.
that's non-billable. But I hope that they see that that becomes a very good investment of time, because in 4 months or 6 months, they're going to get triple their return on that time
Hmm.
that they spent. Messy data is a problem. I like to do what we call a reverse demo and see their existing
Hmm.
system and really, understand what they were doing and how they were doing it, because you also uncover things like, oh, you were using a feature or a field for something that it wasn't intended for.
Hmm.
And and maybe that's fine, but that's not how our conversion tools were written. And so we need to understand that. I'm like a preventative medicine person. Like, I want to know everything that I'm going to find behind that wall
Hmm.
before I find it. So I think with the right commitment and the right consultant and the right communication, you can keep things on the rails. But it
Yeah.
it takes an understanding of what to expect.
Yeah, no, that's a really good answer, and those are really good points. Those are points I wish everybody would understand. It
Yeah,
really does take time.
yeah.
Well, great. Well, so once everything is implemented and working, um, like how many hours per week does Action Step actually take to maintain? From an internal administrator, or does it take any unless you've got new users?
I think it takes not very much at all if your system was set up the way you need it
Mhm.
to be from, during your implementation. But I do think that it's wise to have someone internally who could make tweaks, because
Mhm.
the more your users use the system, the more they are going to realize it could do for them.
Mhm.
So I think, a couple hours a week of the ability to hear what people are asking for and know how to tweak it, that's good, right? That means
Mhm.
people are using it and realizing, oh, if it could do this, maybe it could also do that. From a maintenance perspective of this thing needs adjusted or fixed,
Mhm.
you know, I I'm not on the support team, but I don't
Mhm.
see a lot of issues with just the daily
Mhm.
operations of it.
Mhm.
Adding users is a 2-minute thing. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, you
Yeah.
create a contact and you add them as a user. So, maybe a couple hours a week
Yeah.
max, and that's if you have people who are thinking about how else they could use the program.
Right. Okay. Oh, good. Um, so where do things break down? I mean, what do you see as maybe, when between like action step and maybe accounting systems, or when things come over, where do things break most likely? Or when maybe they're not trying to utilize action step for everything, but they're having a sync, or where do you see things that are like maybe not a good fit, or where things break down?
Gosh, where things break down, like during an implementation?
Maybe during an implementation, yeah, I would say during an
Or
implementation where they can't really bring it all together, or where like the biggest areas of risk.
I think the biggest areas of risk are getting everyone on the team from the firm to agree on how something should be done.
No. Ugh.
That's a really hard thing to do. I met with a firm just yesterday, the litigation team, and there were 5 people in that call, and they all did it differently and feel pretty strongly about their
Mhm.
process being the right process. So it breaks down sometimes when you don't involve the right people at the design phase, when you're making decisions. I understand the concept of not wanting, let's say we go into a 100 user firm. We're not going to get 100 people involved in the design, but you really need someone who represents each different work group. You need a partner, and what do they maybe want to see from a management and reporting perspective. You need lawyers from a what do I need? What kind of data do I need to consume to serve the
Mhm.
client? We need paralegals and legal assistants. They are typically the most active in the system, entering
Mhm.
data, et cetera. You need to know what, the receptionist needs when he or she
Okay.
answers the phone and needs to access something. So I think that the biggest breakdown is people kind of at the decision making from a
Mhm.
buying perspective are making the decision to buy, but they don't always involve the right people. And then those people learn at day one of training and they panic because now they have to do their job. They still have to do their job, but they have a whole new tool that they have to use to do it.
Mhm.
And they weren't asked, they weren't
Mhm.
involved. And so that's frustrating as a human, and
Right.
it impacts people's willingness to use the system. So I think the breakdown happens sometimes is that people circumvent it because not because it doesn't work, but because they didn't have a say, it doesn't work the way they work, and they
Mhm.
didn't understand enough about it before they were asked to just use it to get their job done.
Mhm. Yeah, no, those are really, really good points. Yeah, definitely. So, and I know that Action Step has some AI features. What are where is AI in Action Step, and where is it actually helping meaningfully?
Yeah. So right now, I would say that our AI is the first thing that we've sort of implemented in Action Step from an AI perspective is Scout, which is more of a support AI tool. We have about a year ago, we created kind of an AI task force at ActionStep to really understand what law firms were looking for from an AI perspective. Um, we have a lot in ActionStep of what we would call intuitive automation. We kind of switched the A and the I. And that's things like you created a task, you probably want to do a time entry. You had this phone call, enter your time. But it's not true AI. I mean, I'm
Uh-huh.
just going to be frank. It's inheriting information from another record and prompting you to create time or do something else with it. And that's a good start. We are on our roadmap for AI, which is pretty exciting, and we're really looking at more agentic AI than traditional AI. We don't want lawyers to have to ask our system a question, although they maybe will be able to do that. But we want AI to the AI that we incorporate to be more about, hey, I see that you have this case and it's in this step and it's assigned to this judge. And there have been other cases with that situation where these things had to happen. So we want our AI to take a little bit of initiative. We don't just want it to answer a question. You have Chat GPT for that,
Mhm.
right? So
Right.
that our goal is more of an agentic approach, and we are going to be incorporating AI into our workflow redesign. So you might be familiar with Action Steps workflow, where you move
Mhm.
a case into a step or a phase, and it does some things for you, right? It automatically sends an email, creates tasks, generates the documents, prompts a user for data that they should know about the case at that point. And we're going to incorporate our agentic AI into that as well. Something that maybe says, hey, this case has been in the complaint stage for 72 days, but most complaints need an answer within 30.
Mhm.
So maybe you need to find out what's going on here. So we really want
Mhm.
our AI agent to be less reactive and more
Mhm.
proactive, and that's our goal for AI in Action Step.
Oh, that's really exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's fun. It's
That is
fun to
really
watch the
exciting.
product team and the developers kind of
Right?
figure out what would be helpful. Right?
Yeah.
What would be
Oh, that's
helpful?
right. That is really exciting. So, who is not a good fit for Action Step? What kind of firm or what have you seen? And I know sometimes, but I know that Action Step has like some very robust features. You can really kind of make it do a lot of things.
You
Um,
can.
but what kind of firm or where do you come across where people, besides maybe not being ready, but is there any firm type that is not a good fit or traditionally not a good fit for Action Step?
Honestly, I know people will think I'm saying this just to have a
Mhm.
marketing spin on it, but there's no firm where Action Step is just not, there's no practice area where we say
Mhm.
not a fit because you build Action Step out to behave the way you want. So whether you are doing adoption law or immigration law or bankruptcy or real estate or family law or estate planning, we're not pre-designed for any particular practice area. So I tend to say Action Step is a good fit for anyone who's willing to make the investment of time more than
Hmm.
anything in making it work the way that they need it to work. Um, there are times when there might be a proprietary system out there that is built very specifically for one
Right.
practice area. And if just to be brutally honest, you would spend a lot of money building Action Step out to do what
Hmm.
maybe an already existing program does because it's specific to one practice area, though, not
Hmm.
as it relates to our general competitors in the market.
Hmm.
They're all going to take time to build out. You might find there's a particular, I don't want to say it because I don't want people to think then, oh,
Right.
it's not good
Yeah.
for, but immigration might be a good
Hmm.
example. If there are programs out there that are built for immigration, they already
Right.
have an established integration with the immigration offices for the US and Canada, and
Right.
firms might just find that they're happy with how that
Yeah.
vendor decided you should work. That's the
Right.
difference, right?
Right.
Those programs have decided how you should work for the most part. So if you want more flexibility, we could certainly customize to
Hmm.
meet those features. Might just take a little bit longer, right? Because
Hmm.
that vendor only focuses on
Hmm.
one thing, and that's great. So again, not that we're not a fit for immigration, but you firms might find, especially smaller firms that maybe can't make the investment in the customization. Um, Sometimes it
Right.
just makes financial sense to pick
Good.
something that's already done. But
Right. Well, good. Well, good. Well, thank you. I think that's my last question. Yeah. Anything you want to say to people who are maybe considering action step? Uh,
Um, consider it, get a demo. One of the things that I think differentiates Action Step from a lot of competitors is we bring our solutions team into the very first demo.
mhm,
So we're diving deep as soon as a customer wants to. If they
mhm,
don't, of course, we can stay big picture. But I lead our solutions team, and we really try to be consultative from the very beginning.
mhm,
And if we don't think it's a fit for some reason, or we can't do something that you did in your prior program, we're going to try to bring that up as soon as we recognize
mhm,
it. There's just no sense in us getting far along in the sales process, or worse, sold and ready to implement. And then a partner comes in to do it and they're like, wait, they think they can do XYZ.
mhm.
You know, we have to understand, we have to be better at kind of asking the questions than the customer because they don't always know what questions to ask. They make assumptions that features exist because it existed in their old system. And sometimes it's a reasonable
Right.
assumption to make. So I've trained my team to dig in and really ask a lot of questions, not because I'm trying to kill a sale, but because
Yeah.
I want it to be right. I want this to be a happy, referenceable customer at the end. And the better job we do making sure it's a fit at the beginning,
Mhm.
the better chance we have of that
I
happening.
love that approach. Great. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. It's been great
Thank
talking to you.
you. You too. Have a great day.
Okay. You too.